Kia ora, good evening. I've just had my shower. I'm settling down for the night, sitting here with the candle going. And I just started watching this documentary about Bible John on YouTube. And back in the day when I was still learning and sort of a bit naive and arrogant, and that I even hypothesised with Bible John, the Scottish serial killer Bible John, that it may have had some connection to Oprah Winfrey's friend. I think he called himself at one point Bible John. And I was like, oh, he could be the same person, around about the same age at the time. He's accused of killing lots of people, sex trafficking, like rape and all sorts of horrendous things. And I even did a write-up about it, I'm pretty sure, like on Instagram or LinkedIn or something. But I never really paid it that much attention until now, until I've looked at the Ian Brady, Myra Hindley case and connected them to the Crays and Jimmy Savile and all that. And I live in Yorkshire, not far from where the Yorkshire Ripper murders took place. And I'm sitting here listening to this Bible John documentary. I'll put all the links in the description box below. Peter Sutcliffe wasn't known for killing children. He was women and prostitutes. Ian Brady, I'm utterly convinced, killed the children because he was part of the Illuminati. They were providing children snuff movies. They recorded a lot of things, and back in those days, before they had the dark web and that, they used to take photos, record the voices, video cameras where possible if you could afford it, and then you'd sell it all on the black market. And for the perverts. And my favourite horror author in the whole world, James Herbert, wrote a book in regards to this. There was a true life case in the 80s where a care home was an undercover operation for perverted snuff movies and pornography that was made and sold on the black market to the rich and famous, to the the elites and the powerfuls and that. And they only found out about it because a fire broke out. It's called The Others, and it's based on a true story. And he even says in it that this is like loosely based on a true story. He basically took the real events and turned it into a, like I do, take a bit of history and put a bit of imagination into it. And yeah, they were kids, they were young kids, they were, all different kinds of disabilities and genetic mutations and that, and they used to get them to, make pornographic videos and that and snuff films, and it would be recorded under very strict controlled circumstances in this care home, where on the surface it looked like a care home, but these kids and these victims and that were kept sort of lower underground and out of the way of society, and nobody knew they were there until the fire broke out. So that was Myra Hindley and Ian Brady. I'm utterly convinced that Keith Bennett was the reason why they can't find his body is because he was taken possibly to London. I believe he was trafficked. I really do strongly believe that he was trafficked. Now, in regards to Bible John, the interesting thing is there's identical murders to the Yorkshire Ripper that occurred in Scotland, like Bible John, And there's a lot of talk within the police department that the Yorkshire Ripper, who spent time in Scotland, around Lanarkshire and Glasgow, and that may have actually been responsible for the murder of 4 women. And then when you look at Bible John, now the Yorkshire Ripper grew up in a very strict Catholic Anglican household. And Bible John was known to, quote scripture and stuff. But the thing is, when you look at the time frame, Ian Brady was there as well. Ian Brady was born in Glasgow. He was born in Scotland. And the one thing that the Yorkshire Ripper and Ian Brady have in common is Jimmy Savile. They both knew Jimmy Savile. There's a lot of speculation. One of the bodies was found by Jimmy Savile's house. One of the Yorkshire Ripper's bodies was found by Jimmy Savile's house. And what I'm wondering, I'm going to have it because Jimmy Savile had a home in Scotland as well. So now I'm wondering because the Bible John murders, all the victims were last seen at these dance parties. And Myra Hindley and Ian Brady met at a Jimmy Savile dance party. They used to go to his discos and stuff. And that's how they knew him. And I'm utterly convinced that the murders that they committed and everything was for everything that Jimmy Savile was doing. And then they took Keith because he was the blonde-haired kid, he was special. And Ian Brady and Jimmy Savile both had ties to the Cray twins, who were known to for human trafficking. So now I'm going to have a look and see whether Jimmy Savile happened to be DJing at any of these discos in Glasgow at the time. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe not. I haven't looked yet. But Bible John, the interesting thing is, some people do, when you look at the composite of the description of Bible John, he looks very, very similar to Ian Brady when he was younger. But there's also a composite sketch of a redhead that people said it was who they saw some of the victims with in Glasgow, in Lanarkshire and Glasgow. And the weird thing is, I've just found an article, I'll put it all in the description box. A police officer who came down from Lanarkshire and Glasgow to work for the West Yorkshire Police to work on the Yorkshire Ripper case looks identical to the composite sketch of the guy with the red hair, ginger hair. Now, I'm not saying anything at all, like I'm not, but I'm wondering whether Bible John might have been Ian Brady and Peter Sutcliffe, the Yorkshire Ripper, either working together or they were killing at the same time and 2 killers have been confused for one. I just find it very, very interesting that they were both around there killing people around both of them have connections to Lanarkshire and Glasgow, both Peter Sutcliffe and Ian Brady. They were both active at the same time as women were being killed. Because Peter Sutcliffe was a lorry driver, so, he used to go up there a lot. I'm just finding it very interesting that they were both around the exact same areas at the exact same time and that women were starting to turn up dead. They both have Jimmy Savile in common. They're both from around this area of Yorkshire and Manchester and that, like the Moors murders. I've actually been to the Moors where the bodies are. It's not far from here. They used to come down in the car They're both from around this region. They both have Jimmy Savile in common. They both were killing people. And at the same time that Bible John, and the descriptions of him are varied, but when you listen to the descriptions and look at the descriptions, it sounds like both Peter Sutcliffe and Ian Brady. So could they have been working in cahoots together, or is it just a coincidence that they were both in that area killing people at the same time, and then maybe people confused them for Bible John? Or were they working together? Because Peter Sutcliffe and Ian Brady are from the exact same area of Yorkshire and Manchester, and that where the victims were going missing, and they both had Jimmy Savile in common. They both knew Jimmy Savile. It's no coincidence that one of those bodies was found near Jimmy Savile's home. And Jimmy Savile also owned property in Scotland. So now I want to have a look and see if Jimmy Savile was doing any work up in Scotland at the time that those murders were taking place. If it turns out that he was DJing at some of those places where the girls were going missing, then that's no coincidence. But I just had to put it out there. I'm finding it very curious. Bible John could be two people working together. Ian Brady, and yeah. And then the weird thing was, Myra Hindley ended up, when she was in prison with Rose West, and they ended up in a relationship together. I haven't been able to find any connection, and trust me, I've spent a long time, but I haven't found any connection to Fred and Rosemary West to Jimmy Savile or the Yorkshire Ripper or anything like that. But yeah, I'm finding it very interesting. This Bible John could very possibly be Peter Sutcliffe. And he may have had help. Either it just seems too much of a coincidence that Ian Brady and Peter Sutcliffe were up around those areas at the time that the Bible John murders were happening, and that women were also turning up dead around the same area, but where the cops didn't put two and two together. However, the Yorkshire police have speculated with Peter Sutcliffe. Could he have been responsible for the murder of these four women up in Glasgow and Lanarkshire? They have their suspicions Peter Sutcliffe might be involved. But they should have looked at Ian Brady as well. Because he was born there. So he knows the Glasgow and Lanarkshire and that really well. And he was up around there. They're pretty sure Ian Brady was killing people before he moved down here. So, yeah, is Bible John two men or one? And it's just a coincidence that Bible John was killing people at the same time as Ian Brady and Peter Sutcliffe in the same area of Glasgow and Lanarkshire. And then it just seems weird that the both of them ended up being around here, around the Yorkshire, Manchester region. Obviously, Peter Sutcliffe is from here, but he went up to Scotland a lot. But Ian Brady's from up there and came down here to be around the same area as Peter Sutcliffe. And like I said, the one person they have in common is Jimmy Savile. So, yeah, it's just really weird that one of the composite sketches of eyewitness reports of Bible John looks identical to the police officer who was working for the Lanarkshire and Glasgow police, who ended up moving to West Yorkshire to work on the Yorkshire Ripper case. He looks identical. So I'll put a link to the video that I'm watching and the 2 articles, and just, yeah, something to ponder, eh? I'll put my video about Keith Bennett in as well. It's just a hypothesis, but it's an interesting one. So now I need to look with Jimmy Savile, see where he was working in the sort of late 60s, early 70s. See if he was working in Lanarkshire and Glasgow at the time, because he was DJing in Manchester at the time that Myra Hindley and Ian Brady started doing their thing, and I don't think that's any coincidence. And then if you get the opportunity to read James Herbert's The Others, I have every book in his collection. It's just at my ex's dungeon. Yeah, I've got all his books. He's my favourite horror author. Started reading him when I was 13. He fed my horror writer's mind for my movies that I want to make at the foundation, but um, he pisses all over Stephen King, as far as I'm concerned. James Herbert knows how to get into your head, and he covers like a whole range of paranormal and supernatural, and yeah. And then they killed him because he started writing stuff they didn't want him writing about. That was exposing things about what the Illuminati and that were getting up to. So yeah, so it's just food for thought. Something interesting, eh? I'll put the links in the description box below. I'll speak to you later. Ka kite anō. Mwah.